Welcome to the historic 50th Cyber Security Awareness Forum live panel session. This is on the pet peeves of security awareness managers, or what we might imagine them to be. What we'd like to do is discuss and learn what the challenges are from a security awareness manager's point of view in this sort of special session. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Wright, and I am the host for today. And I'm just going to stop my sharing so we can all see each other. There we are. We've covered a lot of topics over the last 2.5 years. Fleetus has actually been with us, I think, right from the beginning. We have a new panelist I'll introduce in a moment. But we've done things, actually we started, our first session was called, Security Awareness Month, but we did it in March or April, sort of as an anticipation, trying getting people to plan ahead. That was a long time ago. But we've done a few sessions on Security Awareness Month, so we didn't feel compelled to do one on explicitly Security Awareness Month this time. But we've done episodes on compliance issues, AI, metrics, gamification, and a lot more topics. So before I do my usual introduction, I want to jump right into the big poll question that's going to drive our discussion for today, just to get your input. And so I'll get that launched, and everybody who is in the session today can participate in the poll. And while I do a bit of context and housekeeping, love to get people's input on this, and we'll just see where we end up and what topics we're going to be discussing. So the poll is running now. We're going to do also something a little crazy. We're going to let some attendees join our panel. We've already got one. I'm going to turn over and allow her to introduce herself in a minute. That's Marcella. But we also have Ryan and Fleetus with us, so we'll get to that in a minute. But in fact, a lot of this is going to be unscripted, so we're going to invite people to comment on what we learn from our poll right off the bat. So if you do want to be on the panel, we have a little bit more room. So just type in the chat, just say panel if you want to be on. And also love to hear where people are coming from around the world, as I said. Now, the Cybersecurity Awareness Forum is a collaboration group. If you don't know, it's for anyone who's passionate about security awareness and risk management. And the Cybersecurity Awareness Forum series is brought to you by ClickArmor, which is the employee cyber conference builder, gamified security training platform. And if you're looking for engaging employee experiences, reach out to us, and we'll love to chat with you about security awareness training and making it gamified. So let's get started. We'll do a quick round of intro for the regular attendees, call it, or the regular panelists. I guess I'll let you introduce yourself first, Fleetus, and then I'll let Ryan introduce himself.
Sure. So I apologize if it's loud, just let you know. I'm Fleetus Poston. As Scott alluded, I've been around this panel, this discussion, webcast, however you want to, from the beginning. I currently serve as a security operations manager for a company called Crashplan. And I'm coming to you from Denver, Colorado today. Normally I come from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh yeah, you were traveling today. That's why we weren't really expecting you.
I'm boarding a plane in 30 minutes, so okay. I will talk until I board.
Well, we really are awesome. Privileged to have you. So thanks very much, Fleetus. We'll get to your input right away. Ryan, just a little background on yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I'm Ryan Healy-Ogden. I'm the Director of Cybersecurity Solutions at ClickArmor. I've been a part of these panels for about 1.5 years, a little bit more now since I joined the team. Fleet has been awesome working alongside of you, during this time as well, and all the different panelists and everyone we've had. Not really introducing myself. I'm just more kind of happy that we hit number 50 and that we can kind of celebrate it that way. Selfishly, though, I am going to hope that Fleetus's flight is delayed so we get him for the full hour.
Amazing. Okay, and Marcella, how do you like to introduce yourself? I know you're not on camera, but people would love to hear a little bit about your background and what you're passionate about.
Sure. Oh my gosh. Okay, so apologies for not being on camera.
It's okay.
It was because mostly I got asked last minute and my hair is a disaster.
So is mine.
So I will spare you all from my I'm working from home today, hair.
We appreciate you just being here, so that's all.
So I'm not a manager, but I am the security awareness specialist, and I also do security education at my company.
Mhm.
And I mean, this is for me. And I say this every time I do a briefing or I do, any training of whatsoever. I tell them I'm an education junkie. I love to learn. So panels like this, I love to join and kind of pick up on what other people are doing. I like to look for new tools, new techniques that people are doing. So something like this is just, right up my alley in terms of learning to see what everybody else is doing, how everybody else is dealing with, the stuff that we all struggle with. So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, as I said, just really happy to have you here, and look forward to your comments. One last thought, if yeah, I'm just going to actually go around the table before I introduce myself, but basically we've got people here from all over the world. I'm just looking here, Ramar, Ontario, Ottawa, Toronto, California, Atlanta, Ohio, where else? Florida, Newport Richey, Florida, Edinburgh. Awesome. Thanks, Dave. San Jose, Denver, London, and other wheres in the UK. I'm Scott Wright, longtime cybersecurity awareness coach, founder of ClickArmor, and we created the Cybersecurity Awareness Forum, as I said a couple of years ago. I was actually a cybersecurity consultant after being a product manager at a security company for a while. Did a lot of technical security consulting. Now, 5 years ago, I guess it is now, we created ClickArmor after having taught security awareness as a consultant and coach for many different organizations, and just sort of felt there was a need for something more engaging that could get people thinking more clearly and remembering what we're teaching them. So that's where I come from. So I'm going to turn on my screen sharing just to bring up the poll question that we did share to people. But before we do that, oh, there it is. Yeah, so the question of the day is, which of these issues do you feel are among the top 3 of the greatest challenges for security awareness managers? So you don't have to be a security awareness manager to answer this, but it can be whatever you think is on the minds most often as challenges for security awareness managers. And that includes, lack of employee engagement and motivation to do the training, poor employee risk decisions, clicks, social engineering, web actions, password management, ignoring policies, shadow IT, which is also ignoring policies, but a little more direct, inadequate incident reporting, resistance to change, lack of support from leadership in various ways, and lack of policies or risk management guidelines, and an overwhelming volume of threats. So I think this is a good list. There's probably, I'm sure, a lot of things that I haven't covered here. So do feel free, if you don't see one of your favorite pet peeves, to just enter it in the chat, and we'll hopefully get a chance to talk about it. But with that in mind, interestingly, I just learned there's a way to get a QR code from the poll. But I'm going to start by seeing. I thought I might be able to get this ranked, but we're just going to do it this way. I'm going to open a, if I can, open it in the. Oh, I have to close the poll. So if you haven't actually entered anything, please do in the next 5 seconds. And we have 13 responses out of a little over 15, 16 people. So that's pretty good. So I'm going to end the poll right here. And then I get a chance to open it as a browser window, and then we will go have a look at that. So I'm going to change my sharing to that. 1 second. Here we are. So this is what's going to drive our discussion today. Let me just close something else in the way and bring this up. Now, somehow, oh, I see here. This is a better view of it, I guess. So if we start with the most frequent response, which was lack of employee engagement or motivation to do training. The second most frequent response is, and that one had 10 out of 13. So 77% of the people indicated that. Next most frequent is resistance to change and lack of support from leadership. So we'll talk about those and what comes after that. I guess there are a few tied for the next. There's password management, ignoring policies, overwhelming volume of threats, and then lack of policies or inadequate incident response and shadow IT. Let's see if anybody added something. So yeah, we've got Jerry added culture, business versus security peeve. I don't know if I know what that means. Ryan, do you have any thoughts? Maybe Jerry could expand on that a little bit. Love to understand it a little bit better. But
Yeah.
thanks very much, everybody, for putting your vote in. And I think, we'll just keep this up here while we discuss the things from the top down, right? And we'll just focus on the most important things first. So I'm going to ask, in case Fleetus is grabbed or pulled away for a flight, I'll ask you to go first, Fleetus. Let's talk on an individual item first, and then we'll come back to the next ranked one. So if you'd like to talk about lack of employee engagement or motivation to do training, any thoughts on that, Fleetus?
Yeah, I'm going to tie it into Jerry's. It all comes down to the culture of your company. I think people want to force security into the culture versus developing a culture that enables security. What I mean by that is you got to have like-mindedness. You got to help them understand why it's important without forcing it and making it seem like it's mandatory. Depending on, for anyone who's done any studies, the CISOs who come in and immediately try to make the new organization their previous organization are the ones who leave the quickest. They need to take time to learn their business, understand their users, understand how they think. And every company is different. I work for a software development company now. My SREs, my site reliability engineers, are very intelligent. They're very security minded. So when I ask them to do training, they want to know why. They want to know, is this really a good use of my time? So just making sure that, as we've talked in previous sessions, that you're utilizing your time correctly. We talked about micro learning. We talked about just in time training. So just because I'm talking, I'm going to keep going. It allows you to take a current objective CVE news article breach and timely share it. And that's what's more important to them versus let me sit down and take my annual training. We know annual trainings are required for compliance requirements, but that's where you're going to get most of your resistance is like, why do I have to keep doing this? I did this 12 months ago. Why do you want me to do it again? So just helping them understand that there's a compliance need to some of the stuff. And then there's a cultural need. Like, are we outgoing? Are we conservative? And playing to that. Every line of business may be different inside of your organization. So making sure you tailor your security awareness, security risks, or whatever to that line of business's mindset. Like your people team or your HR team is going to want more black and white, where your marketing team may accept more graphics, may want more music, may want some humor. And your developers are going to want a mix between both. They're going to want to understand what's black and white so they know what they can and can't do, but they're also not wanting it to be dry because they're writing code or dealing with ones and zeros all day long.
Yeah, awesome. Great insights. I especially like, what you sort of touched on was the different learning styles almost, right? I mean, humor, some people learn through, having to be engaged that way, and others like engineers often, not that they're not humor or don't have a good sense of humor. They do like the black and white. Tell me what to do. Tell me what not to do. So I love those comments. Marcella, do you have any thoughts on this you'd like to share?
I'm enjoying reading the comments and also, thinking of what Fleetus has said, that for me, first time panelist, I feel less alone now.
Oh, that's so excellent.
Yeah, it's true. One of the things that I find that we struggle with is getting the why, because often, if you come with the label of security, you're either a nuisance that's going to slow down what you're doing.
Yep.
Or a scary person because, oh God, I did something wrong and I'm in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to get people to get the hook, right? To say, okay, why is this good for me, without either terrifying them or, making it too much of a friendly appearance that this is something that I don't have to take seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I know for the questions alone, I definitely know that we have struggle with the employee engagement.
Okay.
So yeah, it's nice to know we're not alone.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you shared that, because I think that's the reason we do this, is hopefully to build some community and collaboration. But I think Shelley kind of felt a similar way in terms of getting to the why, right? Following up on what Fleetus says, it's hard to get people to motivate to do something just because they're supposed to do it. There should be some other reason, right? That that we're giving them that helps them understand the impact on the organization, the culture, the job, etc. So great points. Thanks, Marcella. Ryan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to kind of come at this from a different way, because sometimes I get, in my role, I'm dealing with a lot of customers in the facing side, and so I'm always challenging them to, let me know what your awareness program is doing. Where do you see opportunities? And I hear all the time, well, my biggest problem is lack of engagement or motivation to do the training, and the poll tells us in the results. But once I dig deeper, then we start to see something that I didn't actually see on the list here that came up, and that is the lack of updated content. So if I start, you start to probe, so why aren't your employees, engaged? And that could come down to various reasons. Hey, it's not the right learning style for me. I don't have time for it. People just don't like training. There's all these different things, but one of the ones I commonly hear is, well, the content isn't refreshed, right? So and if they don't feel like they're going to go learn something new, then why go learn something at all? And, Marcel, you made a great point about, being a person who loves to learn, and, and you've got those eager people, they're you guys and myself included, you're easy to get training. Like if I see something about training, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Right. But we're rare. We're the exception to the rule. So then when you look at this lack of training, I think you have to figure out, well, why? And what can I do in my organization to get that engagement up, and really kind of hammer in on that problem? So that was just kind of my 2 cents, just after seeing the results, hearing the results in the real world, and kind of understanding, well, let's look at the content then. Let's look at what we're actually trying to deliver.
Yeah, the updating of content is important. I mean, I know I've had customers talk to me about past experiences with getting the same training every year. I remember it's the guy in the subway who they tell you don't leave your briefcase on the subway, and it's like so visual, right? You can just imagine
Yeah, it's not
how boring it
relevant.
is. Yeah,
And there's
yeah.
no connections to the real world. And that's again being, security awareness managers and CISOs who take that extra step, who, bring, like Fleeta says, bring news to your team, bring real world events to your team so your training can connect to it. So there's some
Mhm.
sort of understanding that this happens and it can
Yep.
happen to you. So let's prepare for it. And if you don't do that, it's the same thing every year. It's going to be like fire safety training. Like, we know where the door is, so we'll just run towards it. But,
Yeah.
there can be better ways to do things.
Yeah, I really like Jerry's comment that goes to the culture side of things, and that's what we've identified as one of the things that motivates people. He referenced Seth Godin as a famous marketing guru, but basically saying culture is defined as people like us. I guess there's a saying, I don't remember which book it was, but there are 3 stories that people kind of resonate with. One is the story of me, the story of we, all of us, and the story of now, like what's happening right now. So great comment, Jerry. Thanks very much for that. And Fleetus had another mention of having maybe you want to just talk about it, Fleetus, follow up on your comment.
Yeah, I'll use this and then I'll depart from you.
Okay.
The human-centered mindset. Use phrases such as peer and colleague versus the employee versus the weakest link, which we stopped using many years ago, but you still see it in some marketing employees. And instead, call them the primary attack vector so that they know that they are that they're your last line of defense or your best blue team member.
Mhm.
And that leads you as a SOC manager to explain what is the blue team, the people, process, and technology. I have technology and I have processes, but without the people, my processes and technologies are just that. They're just technology and they're just processes. So I need the human centric piece of that to make sure that it's relevant. To Ryan, what was articulating back is when I'm timely with what I share with you and when I make it personal, it starts at home.
Yep.
You leaked data. You inadvertently give away data every day, inadvertently, because you signed up for a promo, you want a coupon, you want a gift card, and that data is sold. And then a breach happens, and you're like, "Why is my email in this breach?" Well, You signed up for a movie to go watch a free movie or to get into a concert, or you, like me, have been a Google customer or Gmail customer since Gmail came out. That Gmail account that I've used is almost 20 years old now, if not more.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places that Gmail account has been seen. So my Gmail account shows up, and have I been pwned multiple times a week because it's been sold
Yeah.
and bought and processed.
Yep.
So like being able to teach them of why having a longevity of an email can be dangerous, it also shows them that you have longevity. You have more of an attack vector, and this is how we're going to protect you. Let's not reuse passwords. Let's rotate your passwords. Again, this is changing their mindset, but rotate when you see it, especially if you reused it. And just know that your security teams or your security starts from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, and it's not in just the four walls of the company you work for. And on that, I'm going to drop, pack up my stuff, walk to my gate. I will catch you on the other side, but I appreciate, again, happy 50th to us. I'm glad that we made it this far. It's been a joy to partner with you guys, and I will see you again on the next one.
All right. Safe travels.
Thanks,
We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye-bye. And actually, Shelley made a comment that follows up on Fleetus's thing about, the home experience too, right? People are sometimes, not that tuned into all the different threats that face the business, but it's much easier to get them to realize that there are QR code attacks or SMS attacks that they see probably a lot more often on their personal devices. And you can start that way and get them hooked by realizing that there's a relationship between the risks that they face personally and the ones that they face at the business as well. So since we're down a panelist, if anybody from the audience is brave like Marcella and wants to join us on the panel, just put it in the chat, and we will bring you up and let you speak your mind. So with that, I'm just going to go back and share the results of the poll one more time so people can get context. We talked about lack of employee engagement or motivation. It was a good discussion. Next would be lack of support from leadership. We had much fewer people, but that's the next ranked item. So lack of support from leadership. I see that quite often, actually. So Ryan, I'm going to let you start this one and see if you've had experience or stories that you could share where we might actually have some insight on that.
Yeah, I mean, this one shocks me that it's not higher in a sense, because this seems to be the eternal battle, right? Security awareness versus almost everyone else in the organization, and that is leadership. And leadership has we always have to remember, leadership has a slew of priorities, and IT, security, cyber is just one small piece of that. But what I don't think they understand as a consequence is that small piece has on the entire business operation. And I think that's where we see a lot of lack of understanding, and they don't necessarily understand the value of security awareness training towards the organization. So then they don't necessarily slot the value and give people the time, the resources, and ability to do that. We have multiple clients who some have very successfully used our platform and to get 95% of their multiple 1,000-person team through training with notifications and communication, and it's top down, and the executives on the leaderboard, and everyone's on board, right? Then we have other clients that struggle to get maybe 1/3 of their workforce through training because they're not allowed to communicate, because management doesn't see the value that allows them to get out there and talk about security awareness training and say, follow up and say, get your training done, or even just tell people that it's there in the first place. And so, you can see how the pendulum can swing from both sides. And it's going to be unfortunate if company B that is not communicating openly to their clients, is hit with a breach or a security incident that could have been avoided by understanding the value of training and bringing it from a top-down approach. So I see it more as a bigger problem in the industry of just connecting value to security awareness training, and not just lopping it into another training category that's optional, or not necessarily optional, but hey, it'll make your life better, but we have more important things to do. So that's kind of been my insight for that problem.
Yeah, I guess maybe another way to say what you just said, Ryan, is having a risk-based approach versus a compliance-based approach, right? So there are certain training programs that you realize, yeah, there's some risk there, but more or less it's compliance that's driving the training requirements. And
Yeah, absolutely.
in our case, for security awareness, there are so many risks that you can identify, that you should be able to propose or build a business case based on risks that would make it worthwhile to spend, the time, the budget, have the resources, et cetera. So I'm just going to turn it over to Marcella just to see, from your background, Marcella, have you had any particular stories that you could share around challenges with getting leadership on board or getting, appropriate budgets or resources?
Oh my God, do I ever?
Awesome.
So it's interesting because as I'm listening to Ryan, and again, looking at the comments, I think the reason, my theory, why getting buy-in from leadership is not as high as the engaging others is because it's easier to work with those that are in the trenches with us and get their buy-in sometimes than it is to get not just the verbal approval, but actually walking the walk. And I think part of the problem is that, as technology evolves and as we develop as companies and humans, and those that are out there trying to cause harm are getting more clever, and they're getting better tools, and they're getting faster and smarter. We evolved down in the trenches where we're doing all the work and we're trying to prevent from, for data breaches from happening. But leadership, running a company or running, groups or teams, that hasn't really evolved. So for them, there's a huge difference between, saying, okay, well, I've got, these goals in mind as an organization or as a group, right? If you've got deadlines you got to meet or milestones you have to meet, that's their focus. And having security be part of their conversation. Jerry made a mention about security managers needing to be bilingual. I'm going to say no. It's the managers that have to be bilingual. They're the ones that need to speak security and business, because when the security managers or the security awareness people are coming in and saying, hey, you need to keep XYZ in mind, because this is going to either delay your milestones, if you have a data breach or if you have security infractions that may cause delays in either deliveries to customers or it may disrupt your business operation. They need to be able to understand what you're saying. It's not your responsibility to be able to speak their language. They need to know how to interpret that and how that's going to affect their bottom line. So
Well, I think that's really important, because I don't know that we spend enough time creating content for managers specifically, right? I mean, we create content for general employees to try to give them the lowest hanging fruit, the easiest stuff to action and to keep an eye on. But managers have a different view, right? I mean, they understand the business better, and they should understand the impacts of, their own processes going off the rails, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's something where, like we can tell, again, I'm speaking as one in the trenches, right? We can tell others that, don't click links when you get an email, right? But if my manager, for example, if your building where you might work at is access controlled and your manager has no issues letting people walk in on their access, or they have no issues going through the open door, that example that they're setting is going to trickle through to their underlings, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not getting full participation from the top up, if security is not part of the conversation when the leaders are, doing their quarterly updates on, where sales are at and where, all the milestones that they're meeting, if security is not part of that conversation, security is no longer part of the conversation at all.
Yeah.
Right. So if they're walking the walk and they're leading by example, then it's more likely that you're going to get other people have a better chances of a buy-in.
Yeah,
But
for
yes, we
sure.
don't have enough content for them.
Yeah. And a really good point that you made there about, understanding the impacts, the relevance of certain things. It actually reminds me, 20 years ago, 30 years ago now, I guess, worked in an organization where they had a real quality problem with their hardware, their technology. And so they actually had a quality improvement program back in the days when QIP was huge, right? Trying to quality improvement programs. And there was so much of that language that really resonates when it comes to security. Things like do it right the first time, or, perfection is really a goal, but you always, or zero defects is always a goal. And when you look at it from a security point of view, I think security is just another aspect of quality, right? It's part of, if you do everything properly, things should be secure. And so when you look at it that way, you're right. I think that managers should be aware of what makes the quality of their own teams, and that includes the security of their team, right? So they should understand those relevant aspects of security. Very cool. You had a chance to talk on this, right, Ryan? I think I did too.
Yeah. I think I was just going to say the only thing I wanted to say after talking about those two topics of the top two is
Yeah.
which one would you rather battle against? Right? So would you rather battle against management and trying to get top-down change, or would you rather battle against your lack of engagement? And I thought about it, and I'm going to pick the lack of engagement because I feel there's more ways to get people to pay attention versus sometimes changing old culture and old habits.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why it ranks so highly, right? I mean, if people think about what could make the most impact on my day if I could fix this problem, and that makes it my pet peeve, then probably the engagement is the first thing. I agree. Also, just wanted to go back and look at some of the comments that have been flowing in. Shelley's put a lot of stuff in here. I don't know if I can cover it all, but great comments, Shelley. Did you see anything, Ryan, there that we can hopefully highlight?
Shelley's saying, knowing what leadership needs to deliver up is important when getting buy-in. Deliver them the results that they have to present to the board, and save the other wins to share in another format, right? So it's like you can enable your leadership team, right, with a lot of tools and data that will help them do their job. And sometimes it's, that, you can't necessarily ask your boss to do better, but maybe you could inspire them to.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's not easy. So this is one of the things. I mean, oversharing is one of the things, or over providing, I think is the way Shelley put it. Over providing information to management isn't helpful to them because they don't have the time to really distill it. They need to understand, in a nutshell, what are the impacts, and that has to come from the managers that report to them to make good recommendations that they can back up with data. But on the other hand, there's also the argument, a lot of people are against the traffic light kinds of dashboards. As we're red here, we need to focus on it. We're green, we're yellow. That may not provide enough information or backup for why you need to take that action. So it is a balancing act, I think. All right. So we'll go back to our poll one more time. Tied for lack of leadership was resistance to change. Absolutely. Although I actually am surprised this one is as high as it is relative to the others. I would have expected some other items to be higher, but let's talk about resistance to change. I guess, Marcella, do you want to take a shot at this one? Have you had a chance to think about it?
Yeah, I think for me, from my experience, sometimes that can tie into leadership and just the culture that again gets not run by leadership, but gets encouraged or gets, oh my God, what's the word? Nurtured by leadership, right? When you have a certain business culture where, for example, if dollars is the bottom line each and every time, and if you have a culture that is very set in their ways, and if they do the, if it ain't broke, why fix it? It can be very difficult to get them to see, okay, well, maybe our bottom line could be, more inclusive of other aspects, not just dollars. Or maybe it's too risky to wait for it to be broken to fix something, right? Yeah. So it's interesting. I'm very lucky that the people that I work with from the leadership perspective are actually quite embracing of change, and they are encouraging it. And they're saying, if you have ways of improving things, bring it forward. But
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that also goes with the how would I say it? See, the resistance to change within leadership, right? It's not just resistance to change in the culture itself, but when new ideas come or maybe new approaches, if the leaders haven't really had any pain, say, from the current way of doing things, they will be resistant to changing the processes, right? So think about, I know we have, some debates all the time about live phishing simulations. Are they the right way to, assess people's risks? Maybe they are for phishing, but what about for social engineering? Or should we be focusing on other kinds of risks that we can somehow assess people with in a different way? But I found that even despite having some compelling arguments and data, it can be hard to get management to change. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, I mean, like banks are famous for this. There's like a lot of institutions, companies have been around for hundreds of years, right? Like they know how to successfully run their business. And even though security is a new aspect of it, it's only been around for a fraction of that business's history, right? And of that culture and of that way of doing things. And so it takes a lot to change, things that are not alarm. Like if an alarm goes off, you want to change it and fix it, right? But if the alarms aren't going off, if again, it's like I tell you, do these things, so hopefully, there won't be a fire, and you're like, nah, there's never going to be a fire, right? Well, there might be one day, and that's the same with security. It's like we really have to change this. Well, I don't see it happening, or show me the data where it's happening, or things like this, or relying on phishing sims to tell you what your culture's like. I think we're missing the mark, and that's gonna people aren't going to change because the path that they're on is working. And even though the path that they're on could be taking them down to a massive breach, and that's a whole different story. It's currently working, right? And that's I think a lot of the problem with getting change. Just one great comment, Shelley did say resistance to change also ties back to the tell me why. Right. And again, that's awareness. And it's now like we almost have to have awareness of our awareness program to bring people, into the idea that this is not something extra. This is not above and beyond. This is just part of your day-to-day flow. And then there shouldn't be resistance. It should just be another thing that, I have to go to work, so I have to be secure. I have to go to work, so I have to, do X, Y, Z, right? We're all used to these other constraints when it comes to work, but when it comes to security and maybe having two-factor on or using having two devices and all these inconveniences that are mentioned, that really hampers the resistance to change, and again comes from top down, right? Who are the most common people to say they have two-factor disabled? It's the executive team. And why do the board of directors only have one phone and everything comes to it, and they have 7 email addresses with the same password? Well, they're the board of directors, they're allowed to. And you're like, but that's not going to then change down the line. And so those are some of my observations around it.
Yeah, a really good example of one of the culture impacts that we should highlight. Jerry mentioned CSXT starts each meeting with safety. I'm not familiar with CSXT, but I expect it's something in either operational networks or manufacturing, something that obviously has bigger safety issues. But that reminds me of a utility that I worked with a long time ago. We were coming up with a way of defining security in a way that's relevant to an OT type of organization. And what we came up with is safety starts with security, right? If your systems are not secure, then they become unsafe. Especially in these days of potential electronic threats that could hurt the integrity or sabotage, et cetera, right? So it's just an example of within a certain type of business model or culture, you need to focus on different things. All right. Any other comments on that question, which was resistance to change?
There's just some great comments in the chat again, talking about risk again. Risk keeps coming up. So it's something that we talk about, but maybe we don't talk enough about with the right people, making sure people understand their risk, know what is not just from an organization, but from, at a personal level. It's like, if all of your money's in the bank, do you want someone to have access to that? Yes or no?
Mhm.
Start to work simple problems backwards for people. But sometimes it takes that just to be able to, when we all know this, we've all talked to, because we're in cyber, but we've all talked to people that are not in cyber, not in technology, or not in, even the same demographic. We've talked to them about cybersecurity, and you have to change the way you approach it. You give them
Yeah.
real life examples. I speak to the gentleman at the Legion. So when I go down to speak to the gentleman in the Legion, it's not the same way I speak to, to you guys and references and technology. No, it's real world examples of what could happen to, an 83-year-old gentleman who uses his computer once a week to talk to his grandson. But that once a week interaction, being on there clicking the wrong link could be disastrous. Right.
Mhm.
So it's just giving them the examples. And I think people need to know. And I maybe sometimes as security managers or people in security, we sometimes shield people from those examples, and maybe that actually creates a bit of a resistance, because now we're standing over here saying, oh, we hold security and we're the key, we have the keys to the castle. But so they're like, well, fine, security's got it, I don't need to pay attention.
Yeah, there's a couple of really good comments in here I want to focus on. First, from Jordan saying, if we're talking about likelihood and impact, i.e., risk, then shouldn't the conversation of security always be talking the language of risk? Totally get that. I think there's a lot right in that, but I can explain maybe from my risk management background, maybe why it isn't always as easy as just saying or doing what you're saying there. But there's also, cybersecurity isn't a tangible. This is from Andrew. Cybersecurity isn't a tangible. It is easier to say no if a person doesn't understand, and as opposed to owning up, and they don't actually understand. So simplify the complex. And that is also a risk discussion. And so my background, obviously, back in 2003, I was doing risk assessments on IT systems, and it became a pretty clear methodology where we talk about assets and threats and vulnerabilities. It actually took me years to figure out how to work that. And so it may sound like a really simple thing, but I agree totally. Everybody is going to have to become better at managing their own risks. And we need to be teaching people the language of risk, and those things like impact and likelihood, so that people can assess things that are new. They're not just, if you see, this particular URL, don't click on it. It's something you have to start teaching people to be more aware of and how to actually process. So that's one of the things that we focus on a lot, is the proficiency side, not just the compliance side. Like, can we teach people something and then exercise their skills so that we can be sure that they understand those things? Excellent. Okay. So we're going to do one more topic maybe before we call it a day. But great discussion. I really appreciate everybody's input on this. Next one is poor employee risk decisions, whether it's phishing, clicks, social engineering, web actions. So this is a really interesting one, because this actually goes to the proficiency question, I think, right, Ryan?
Yeah, and it's a great point. I would be wildly frustrated if I was a security awareness manager, and as far as pet peeves go, and I had spent all my time and my energy in getting people to go through their training, and you see the results, and you're like, okay, here it is, and the next thing you know, someone clicks a link, like, it's so, that's where, the organization hopefully has something in place to catch that click, to stop that. And that's where we always talk about how, security isn't just one aspect. There's a whole front to back of security, and you need a lot in place. But I guess it's understanding the fact that things are always going to happen, and we can only do our best to try and, ensure that, you've brought the best, content to the right people at the right time. Like, if you check all those boxes and then all of a sudden Joe is still clicking a link, well, yeah, that Joe's always going to click that link. And it doesn't matter where you put Joe. Like, Joe could get hired by NASA next week and literally be inside like a compartmentalized like office, and he'll still find a way to click an external link, because that's just what people do. And we can't get around that. And that's what the proficiency model is. You have to look at, let's look at the larger portion, and you have to kind of accept that there's always going to be a little bit of fault. I've had to kind of teach myself that just to not get frustrated with results in a lot of different areas. And I think as a security awareness manager, I would be reminding myself of that lesson often, because yeah, you're going to bang your head against the wall if you expect that even if 90% of your team gets through training, that you don't have anything to worry about. And that the CISO won't yell at you when someone clicks a link. You know, oh, I thought you taught everyone to not click links. You're like, so I see that one as being a very, you know, again, maybe if we were all being honest, that one would be higher. You know, employee. What's my number one pet peeve? Employee behavior, despite, you know, all the efforts I put in and how hard I work and how underpaid I am. I mean, that's the long sentence, but I think it's a great example of, we got to understand the audience, and there's always going to be people out there.
I'm going to, we have a comment from Ishmael, who I think would like to actually speak on this. So I'm going to turn on Ishmael's audio and welcome Ishmael.
Hello, thank you very much. This is very dear to me. I'm very fascinated with human-centric cybersecurity. Is it possible to see the point on the poll
Oh,
once
yes.
again?
Yeah,
Thank
just
you.
here we are. There it is.
So poor employee risk decision, phishing clicks, social engineering, and web actions.
Yes.
I wholeheartedly believe that it's important to note that what is often labeled as human error can actually be indicative of a larger systematic issues. For instance, when an employee clicks on a phishing link, it may not just be their mistake. It could also reflect the failures in multiple layers of technical defenses, insufficient training, or high levels of work stress. Instead of solely blaming the individual, I think it is crucial to evaluate and address these systematic factors to truly enhance the security, bringing it back to a human-centric approach to cybersecurity, where I think it'll make all the difference, and it'll be the game changer that these security programs need to move ahead with in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ishmael.
Very well said. That was fantastic. I mean, I mean, exactly. Is all I can say.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is what's very dear to me. So I was very happy that it was mentioned and I could have made this comment. Thank you.
No,
I hope in the future to actually be a more active and participating panelist perhaps on this really
for sure.
fantastic session. I enjoyed them so much. Thank you ever so much, Scott and Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishmael. Yeah, so I'm actually, I totally agree with everything Ishmael had just said, but I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate because I hear this so often, right? So there are the people, especially on the technology side, saying security awareness training is a waste of time because somebody's always going to click or somebody's always going to make that mistake. So don't even bother. And I disagree with that approach because where's the layered security model, right? I mean, if you're depending on everything being technology, then you've lost your defense in diversity and your layering of security methods and safeguards. So I usually push back, or else I don't even bother trying to engage these people because they typically have their minds made up. But it actually is really important. We have to recognize, first of all, we are never going to get to zero risk. And if we're faulting the individuals because they clicked on something, just as Ishmael said, it's probably something in a system that should be fixed. It's unlikely that we're actually ever going to isolate all of the systemic problems. And that's why we have layered security. So that's kind of what I wanted to sort of put on top of what Ishmael said. So I think it's a great point, and it's definitely kind of like when I said zero defects is never really achievable, but it should always be our goal. I think we have to kind of look for those ways to systemically or systematically try to reduce risks. And that's why when I'm talking, if I'm teaching a security awareness live session or things like that, I will say technology is really important. It's vital to have it in place to get all of the known risks that can be identified by the technology because they are scalable, they are fast, they're reliable, but they have limits. And that's why we have to layer on the human side. So enough of my soapbox. I'll turn it over to Marcella if she has a question or comments.
Well, I think one of the thoughts that came up is, yes, like you said, we have to recognize that employees are humans, and until we're all fully replaced by AI and robots, there's never going to be a zero risk. Our goal is to minimize it, and I think one of the things that I've been working on learning and becoming part of my regular language is looking at the processes, and if there is an error that is being consistently made, we need to focus on fixing the process or improving the process and not the people. Because when we take the focus away from the people, then we're more likely to be able to minimize the risk while also taking into account that it's never going to be at a full absolute zero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the process is key, and it's very subtle, right? Because we can look at it and say, we'll have customers who say, well, I want to identify the people who clicked on our last 2 phishing simulations and then train them to be better at spotting phishing messages. As you said, Marcella, maybe there's a process problem there, right? That is, if you're in customer service, you have to click on links. It's your job. So things like that, I totally agree. Ryan, any?
I think all links. I think, I fundamentally have an issue with a lot of things, but no, no. But I mean, when we're talking in this essence, I think the ever saying to someone "don't click links" is completely wrong. I mean, links are
life.
How the internet works, right? I mean, you can't navigate the internet without utilizing links. You can't open documents on SharePoint without clicking a link. You can't use Slack, Teams. You can understand my point. So stop, we have to stop saying that. That might change employee resistance. That might change, culture and everything else, because people then will understand, oh, I'm allowed to click things. I just have to be, mindful of what I'm clicking. And I also have to be mindful that mistakes will happen. And when they do, I need to report them, right? That's started building the security culture. So you didn't click a link that you weren't supposed to, and then you're going to cover that up and not tell somebody. And then it becomes a larger security incident, right? It's like saying, don't use that door, but we're going to leave it open. No, we lock the door and we put up a big note and we say, don't use this door. And, we explain to you why. There's a highway on the other side. There's different ways we can approach this, but I think we have to stop telling people don't. We have to stop blaming humans. As Ishmael said, this is, we have to make the human-centric approach. And, all these stats about, 85, 96% of all security incidents are human-related. Of course they are. We're all sitting behind, 100% of us are sitting behind the computer at the time of the incident. So if, it's very, I think it's very misleading. And so, I mean, great points on all of these things. And I think we could be here for 2 or 3 hours and just crush this list.
Yeah, we should have made it a 2-hour session, but we might not have gotten as many people on. Who knows?
Yeah, fair.
It is time to wrap up, though. So just a couple of last points. I'd like to just have anybody who sort of thinks back on what we just talked about and can summarize in a bullet or two, what you felt was valuable in terms of this discussion, either whether it's for insights on the executives, the CISOs, the board, or things for implementers like security awareness managers who are dealing with these things. What are some of the things that we discussed today that you come away with that you're going to do differently as a result of our discussion today? So love to have people enter something in the chat there. We can relay that. And some of the insights for the individuals, we often don't talk about individuals, but we did cover it a little bit today. And that was around, trying to bring the individual's personal life risks and things that we can talk about to engage them and bring them in to address that number one issue. Ryan, did you have any insights you noted?
Yeah, I think, my biggest insight is there's still too much of a divide between kind of the operational security awareness teams and the executive management teams. I think it's getting highlighted, in when people say that, they're struggling or they can't get this done and all of the things that just still lead to this divide. I think we have to make this more of a unified topic and keep normalizing security.
Yeah. Marcella, anything that you got out of this session that you will remember and take away?
Yeah. Well, kind of tagging on to Ryan's, I'm now looking at a goal of I'm going to make sure the executives are taught. I have to get creative in ways of teaching them, almost like turning the tables and saying, okay, you tell me about security. You tell me what you know, because then you'll be able to identify what their priorities are and what spots they're missing. Sorry, I have to step out because I have another meeting that's starting now.
I know.
Yes.
It's
Thank you very
2:00,
much for
so
this.
thanks very much. Really appreciate you and Ishmael joining us. And if anybody's still around, we do want to let you know these sessions are brought to you by ClickArmor. We'd love to be able to talk to you about how we can make your awareness training easier to deploy and more effective. So lots of things we could go on there. Ryan's happy to chat, give a demo, set you up for a trial. And I think we also would like to offer an idea that we've been working on over the last little while. You might have seen us posting on LinkedIn called the 5-Day Cyber Challenge. So we can actually set up a challenge for your organization that would really be very lightweight. It's, a 5 days, 3 minutes a day for 5 days. And it just gets people familiar with the whole idea of gamification, teaches them a little bit, and they start to realize, it can be fun to take this stuff. So we're offering a special promo. Ryan's happy to again take you up on that. And we have some smart quick start bundles that are designed for smaller organizations just to get up and running really quickly. So any of these are available for you guys to go in and get online with almost right away. And for that, that's our final slide for the day. Really appreciate everybody coming. We don't have a next one scheduled. We will probably be moving to more of a monthly cadence. We covered a lot of topics in the last 50 sessions on a bi-weekly basis, and it wasn't an awful lot of work for us to do, but it is some. So we're going to cut back a little bit and hopefully still be able to bring you as much or more value on a monthly basis going forward. So
yeah, and I just want to quickly announce on the heels of that, on the 23rd of this month, there will be a special session of the CSAF with us and our friends at Whitetooth. They're a fantastic cybersecurity company here in Canada as well. We're going to have a joint session about risk and awareness, and how the two go hand in hand and how they both support each other. So since there was so much risk talk today, I just wanted to mention that before people dropped off. And again, thank you everyone for making these sessions as awesome as you have, and all the comments today was great.
All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. We'll let you get back to your day. But remember, until next time, engaged employees reduce risks. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, everyone.